Well, greetings once again. My name is Brian Speers and I'm the President of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association. And next in my series of President in Conversation with leading lawyers across the Commonwealth, I'm really delighted to meet a very old friend and former council member of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association. But now, would you believe, His Lordship Nene Amegatcher from Accra in Ghana, and Nene was appointed to the Supreme Court in Ghana in 2018. And Your Lordship, it's really lovely to see you this morning.
It's a pleasure to speak to you this morning, and thank you again, Brian, for the good work that all of you are doing for the Commonwealth Lawyers Association.
Your Lordship, you, as I've mentioned, have a long history of association with the CLA and in attending Commonwealth Law Conferences. Do you have any particular recollections or memories of what attending a Commonwealth Conference is all about?
Yes, it has been quite exciting and fulfilling attending Commonwealth Lawyers Conferences. I recall my first Commonwealth Lawyers Conference was in 1996 in Vancouver.
Oh, goodness me, yeah.
And followed it up to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia in 1999, thereabout. But since I started attending the Commonwealth Lawyers Conference, I found it to be very fulfilling and relevant to my own situation and circumstances as a lawyer from a Commonwealth country. I belong to various international bodies which I attend programs almost every now and then, but comparing attendance at Commonwealth Lawyers Association, I found the topics that were discussed, topics regarding practicing area, regarding the rule of law, access to justice, issues involving democracy, very, very, very relevant to our situation and circumstances as a Commonwealth law country. And that encouraged me to continue attending. Apart from also the networking, it was an opportunity for me to meet distinguished personalities I have heard about, I've read about, but have not met in person. And for me, meeting these people in person, some of them coming over on a daily basis to deliver the daily keynote addresses, and also meeting some of them at council meetings was very, very fulfilling for me. I learned a lot about leadership and how to manage professional associations. So it did not come to me as a surprise at all when I was elected the president of the Ghana Bar Association. Most of the plans and measures that I put in place, I picked them up from the Commonwealth Lawyers Association.
Well, that's fantastic. And that is a common theme, that there is both usefulness and networking and shared experience, but there's also a great camaraderie and family feeling amongst the Commonwealth legal fraternity. And we hope to carry that forward, Your Lordship, to our conference, pandemic permitting, in September 2021 in Nassau, the Bahamas. And the theme of that conference, you will know, is sustainable justice. And we have in mind both a sustainable legal profession and sustainable judiciary and rule of law. Do you have any reflections on that theme for us?
I'm looking forward to that conference, that program in the Bahamas. God permitting and everything being equal, I hope to be there as well. But sustainable development and access to justice is an appropriate topic at this time. I think, if my memory serves me well, Sustainable Development Goal by the United Nations, number 16, deals with something like that, access to justice. And I think we've come to a stage where we need to open up the legal system for various groups within the country, because for a country like my own country, you have people who can access justice easily, either because they live in the capital, and others who cannot because of where they find themselves, in the villages, in the communities. And it is important that we put measures in place so that such people will also access justice cheaply and easily. Otherwise, at a point when they are unable to do that, they just take the law into their own hands, and then self-help then prevails. And we've had examples in this particular country. So fortunately, and to give you this information, I just received a letter from the president of the country appointing me the new chair of Legal Aid Commission that has been set up. And the purpose of the Legal Aid Commission also is to ensure that there is access to justice, especially to the indigent and the downtrodden within the communities.
Well, no better person, Your Lordship. That's absolutely a fantastic appointment, and I'm sure that in that role you'll make a great difference to the people of your country and ensuring that access to justice is preserved. I have heard from other Commonwealth jurisdictions of mobile courts and people going to the remote areas in countries rather than have a fixed court building and expect the people to come to it. I don't know whether that applies in Ghana yet, and whether there's any mobility in terms of justice coming to the people.
Yes, what we have started, we've started in the criminal area, in the prisons. We have a project we call the Justice for All project. And under that project, judges and lawyers and prosecutors go into the prisons, and they sit in the prisons, and they hear application for bails and also appeals, criminal appeals. Instead of expecting the prisoners to come over to court, sometimes you have excuses which are given, like vehicles are broken down, and cases are called in the courts, and the prisoners are not brought on account of one reason or the other. So we have now mobile justice going right into the prisons, and we are also putting in place measures whereby young lawyers and also law students will be running legal aid clinics. These clinics will be set up in the various communities in which lawyers will subscribe to, because lawyers in Ghana now are being asked to devote a certain minimum hours of their time to legal aid and access to justice as a requirement for the renewal of their yearly solicitor licenses.
Yes.
So these measures are being put in place so that young lawyers and even older lawyers can give something back to society.
Well, that sounds really interesting and certainly on point so far as the theme of our next CLA conference is concerned, and those measures, I think, are essential to sustaining justice. I wondered, Your Lordship, if I could move on maybe just and have some reflections about the pandemic and how it has affected court sittings in Ghana. Have you been able to use technology in any hearings, or have you been able to manage any cases using technology? What's been the situation with you in the Supreme Court in Ghana?
Unfortunately, We have been talking about it, but we have not introduced technology as at now. It is on the drawing board, but I believe sooner or later we will see these measures in place because the Chief Justice is quite anxious to introduce technology into every aspect of the justice delivery system. During the period of the lockdown as a result of the pandemic, and we are not out of the woods yet. We have the lockdown is lifted, but then we have issue relating to social distances and conferences and the number of people that you expect in the courtroom. So during that time, what we did was to designate courts in various areas within the country and assigned specific judges to these courts. We did that because we realized that although our parliament had passed a law, which we call it the Imposition of Restriction Act at that time, giving the president power to impose certain restrictions, we are aware that the rights of people may be affected in the course of that. And so the balance between the rights given to the president by parliament to take certain decisions and parliament also keeping an eye on the executive as to what they did, and the judiciary also having a right to ensure that the liberty of the individuals are not overstepped, we made sure that the courts function, designate courts function to ensure that people whose rights are affected or who broke the law were dealt with expeditiously so that the police officials would not keep people in custody outside the mandatory 48 hours period with which they were supposed to bring prisoners before the courts.
Yes, well, I can see that the prioritizing the liberty of the individual and ensuring that there's some functionality of the court was well addressed. But in many of these discussions that I'm having and in our hub areas where we've had a couple of discussions, it's clear that lawyers have had to be very flexible to adjust to the new lockdown, and also that technology can assist, but has its limitations as well, of course, because not every citizen and indeed not every lawyer has the requisite technology. Your Lordship, I appreciate you have another function to or official business to attend to. Can I say on behalf of all your colleagues on the Council of the CLA that it's really great to see you in person, looking and sounding so well, and we really can't wait when we can meet up again in person. And that might be, if I can get myself to Accra, it might be before the Bahamas conference, but it's really been a pleasure to cross our paths again this morning, and the good wishes of everybody in the CLA I bring to you, and thank you so much for participating in our chat.
Thank you for having me this morning. I've also missed activities and our monthly conferences and meetings of the council, and as well as the EC. And I'm hoping and expecting that all things being equal, sooner or later, we'll be able to meet in the Bahamas and share ideas further. It has been a real pleasure talking to you and sharing my own views on the various matters that you raised. All the best.
Well, thank you very much, Your Lordship. It's greatly appreciated. Have a great day.